Hey, what's up, guys? So, a question that I get a lot is which radar detector I actually run myself day to day. I've got a fair number of them, and I'm constantly using different detectors to test a new detector, a new firmware update, a new app, whatever. Plus, just changing detectors all the time kind of keeps things interesting to see how they compare, you know? So, for educational purposes and video purposes, I'm running different detectors all the time. However, there's times where I'm not doing it for video, I'm just driving around and I just want to pick a detector that I like, you know? And in those situations, I kind of had to ask myself, like, okay, what detectors do I actually find myself reaching for in practice? Like, if I look back at my driving, what detectors do I actually use? And I've noticed it kind of comes down to three main detectors. The three primary detectors that I'll use for myself, they're actually really similar. They do a lot of the same things, which is why I've chosen them, basically. It comes down to the Valentine 1, the Escort Max 360, and the Stinger VIP. These are pretty much my three favorite detectors if I had to choose them, because they're all actually really similar. The reason I've chosen these detectors is when it comes to understanding what's going on around you, that for me, I love. Like, I love understanding my surroundings. You know, that's a lot of fun for me. And these detectors pretty much do all of that. They give me the arrows, right? So you got directional information. You've got your automatic GPS lockouts, right? They'll all do lockouts. Some will require a phone, some are built in. All of them, as far as the muting capabilities, the blind spot filtering is pretty good. Performance-wise, they will all give me plenty of range and practice. Some of them give me obviously better performance than others. And finally, I mean, they're like fully loaded detectors, and I love having detectors that have kind of all the bells and whistles. Like, I like that a lot, you know? So they're all very similar detectors: arrows, lockouts, muting, all that good stuff, you know? So that's pretty much why I've narrowed it down to those three detectors. However, they also do have some differences, and it's because of the differences that I may actually choose one detector over another. So I figure in this video I'll talk about a little bit kind of why I would actually prefer to run one detector over another. It depends on where I'm driving, and also kind of my temperament for the day, my mood even, you know? So let's talk about all three and kind of where the differences are and why I would choose one over the other. So we'll start with the Valentine 1. The V1 is a detector that I've run for years. I know it really well at this point. I'm really comfortable with it. It's like a comfortable pair of shoes, you know? So I can put it on, I know it, and it's good to run for that sense. The reason why I really kind of fell in love with it initially was this is the king when it comes to situational awareness. Like, if you want to know what's going on around you, there is nothing better than a V1. This, when paired with Yavi 1, you get all the information for every single signal, and there's times when that's actually really important. See, where I used to live, there was a lot of K-band radar in use next to shopping centers, and that's kind of a tough situation, especially if they're using some lower powered K-band guns. It can be really tough to tell the difference between a police officer and an automatic door opener. So what I needed is a detector that can really give me all the information so I can help determine that for myself. And what I like about the V1 is when you pair it with Yavi 1, you get all the information for every single signal, including the direction where that signal is coming from, the arrows. You get the frequency information, so I can tell what's going on. You get the signal strength, so you can actually watch the ramp up change over time. And you can also see, you know, if it's a locked out signal, if it's a new signal that you've never seen before. Like, there's a ton of information that you can get. And when I'm on, like, high alert, you know, if I've had my coffee for the day, if I'm like, let's do this, and I want to see what's going on, there's nothing better than a V1 with Yavi 1. So in those situations, when I want to be on point, that's the detector that I choose. Now, however, I don't always want to have like an experience where I'm really focused on my countermeasures. You know, since I've moved, for example, I'm now down in kind of more like downtown area, and there's actually no K-band that's in use at all. It's 100% false alerts. It's only Ka-band on the highways, and in the city, they don't actually run speed enforcement at all. And so what I want is actually a quieter experience. I don't want to be focused on my radar detector so much and having to analyze stuff, and I don't need that experience. I want something more calm and more relaxed. In that situation, I find the Max 360 works better. And the reason, let's talk about kind of some of the issues with the V1 and why I wouldn't necessarily want to run it if I'm not too focused on radar. There's a couple things. Like, when this guy is running, the display on the screen, you actually can't if you're running it with the phone or something, yeah, you can run the display in dark mode altogether, but if you've got the display on, this thing is always going to be going crazy if you're driving around in town, even if the signal is muted or locked out. You can audibly mute the signal, but you can't stop the display from basically going bananas around town. So if you're driving around town, yes, you can lock out your signals, but if you have your detector set up like I do, where you have it right in front of you so you can see exactly what's going on around you, like while you're focused on the road, the V1 will still visually go crazy. Additionally, the way the muting works on this detector, it's got two muting knobs here. Like this is your main volume, and then when you mute a signal, it goes down to this outer knob, so you can actually control the volume of the muted knob. However, if you want to totally, completely silent the detector, you can't actually do that. If you turn the volume all the way down with this guy, what will happen is it'll give you a very, very quiet signal. Not silent, not completely muted, but very quiet. Usually you won't notice it when you're driving, but if you just want to relax, you're sitting at a stoplight, you don't even have the music going, you just want a quiet, relaxing experience, this guy's going to keep beeping at you no matter what, even if you mute the detector. So with all the flashing lights and the audible alerts, like this is not the most relaxed detector. You know, if I want a quieter experience, this is not the one that I go for in that sense. So if I want a more relaxed experience, I'll go with this guy. With this one, I can just put it up on my windshield and it does the rest for me. It's really simple. It's not going to give me all the information for every signal, but if I don't need that and I don't want that, I actually prefer that experience. When I'm driving around town and I've got locked out signals, the way this guy would treat it is on the display, it'll actually show your display in gray. So you can actually see, you know, how many signals you're getting, you can see front and rear, you can watch the signal strength of the primary signal, but it's gray, so it's not going to really get your attention. So if you want the quieter experience, this guy will do that for you. Additionally, the arrows won't even light up if you've got a locked out signal. So unless it's a signal where the detector is like, hey, I think this is a legitimate alert, I want to get your attention, and it will. Otherwise, it's going to be quiet. It's completely silent. It's completely muted. The display is more calm. And if, again, I'm driving in an area now where it's 100% false alerts, I would prefer a detector that leans more on the quiet side. This guy will do that for me, so I really like it. Additionally, like I said, I'm constantly trying new detectors and out, you know? So with this guy, all I have to do is just grab the detector and the mount, and I just pop it up on my windshield, and that's it. I'm good to go. With the V1, I need to do the same thing with putting it on the windshield, but I need to grab the Bluetooth modules, either Android or iPhone. I need to grab my Android phone, like I'm an iPhone user, so I have to grab my dedicated Android phone. I have to have a separate phone mount, I have to grab the power cable for it, so there's a lot more work every time if I want to use this guy. So again, this is why I would use this when I really want to be on point, whereas this guy I would use if I just want more of the calm, relaxing experience, you know? This guy does not have the best performance, the best range in the world. I've got the Stinger for that, so it's okay. With this guy, like, even though it's not the greatest performance in the world, what I experience most of the time driving around is constant on the highways 33.8, and that's ridiculously easy to pick up, even by a detector that's not the most sensitive in the world. So even though I'm sacrificing a little bit of performance here, it's still sufficient performance to actually save me in practice driving around town. So I get a quieter experience, and I get sufficient performance to actually keep me protected. So if I want the more relaxed experience, this is the one that I go for. Now finally, the third detector that I would use is going to be the Stinger VIP. I can't show you right now, I can pop off the magnetic display. I can show you that, but this one's actually permanently installed in my car, and I really like that because I always have a detector in my car. There's been so many times before I got a permanent detector that I would just forget to grab a detector, and now I'm driving around with no detector at all. So if I've got no detector at all, like, oh my gosh, I forgot one. Do I need to go back home and go grab one, you know? So it's nice to always have a detector in my car. So for that reason, I like the Stinger a lot. But I could do that with any remote detector. Like, why this one? Well, I've got the arrows, which, again, I mentioned that earlier. I like the arrows. I've got the GPS lockouts. I've got the low-speed muting. I've got the red light camera alerts. I've got all the core basic functionality that I want in a radar detector. Additionally, the performance, it is the best performing radar detector on the market. Every time we go test out with the Stinger and any other detector, whether it's a remote or a windshield mount, this guy wins consistently every time. It's the best performing radar detector on the market. It's expensive. It's not cheap, especially I've got the dual antenna, so I've got front and rear antennas. The rear antenna I actually have back installed behind my headrest there, and the front antenna is mounted on the front of my car. But if you splurge for a system like that, you've got the best performing system on the market, and the false filtering is actually quite good. It's not perfect. I mean, actually the V1 and the Max360, they're not quite as good, but they're actually quite close. So the Stinger's not like light years ahead of other detectors, but it's actually really good when it comes to filtering. So you've got the filtering, you've got the performance, and I've got the permanent installation, which I really like. So if I'm running a detector like the V1 or the Max360, they don't have the best performance in the world, but they've got enough for a save. And if I'm in a situation where I really want maximum level of performance, I got the Stinger and I'm set. So those are the 3 detectors that I'll actually choose from, and why I would run any one of them over the other. I mean, I've got the Stinger, but like, you know, with the V1, for example, something that it would add that the Stinger doesn't give me is things like the situational awareness I mentioned, being able to see all the signals for every single alert, or all the alerts for every signal, or all the information for every signal, whatever it is, you know? With this guy, I get a ton of useful information. On the Stinger, you can actually see multiple signals at the same time, and from a geek factor, it's kind of cool the way it's displayed with this whole spectrum analyzer, but it's not actually that useful in practice. The spectrum analyzer will show you multiple spikes for multiple signals, but at a glance, you can't really tell what's going on. I mean, it'll give you the frequency for only one signal. You get no arrows. And there's a bunch of noise at the bottom of the display, so at a glance you just see a bunch of junk going on, and it's hard to tell at a glance when you're driving, you know, exactly what's going on. Where with the V1, with the IV1, I can see everything at a glance, and it's a really simple presentation. It's not flashy or fancy, but it's effective, and it does the job, and it does what I need it to do. So the spectrum analyzer, I really like it on the Stinger. It's a feature that I've wanted for years, but in practice I don't actually find it that useful. So when it comes to situational awareness, that's what the V1 is for. If I'm traveling around and I just want an easy-to-use portable detector, this is the guy that I grab. If I'm driving in my car and I want performance, if I'm driving in the mountains or wherever else, the Stinger is the detector that I want. So those are my 3 top picks for my personal favorite detectors and why I run them. I also want to talk about some of the honorable mentions, some of the detectors that maybe were close to making the cut, but reasons why I didn't choose them. Some of the popular ones, like, so let's start with the Redline. I've owned the Redline twice. It's a great detector. It's the best performing windshield mount radar detector you can get, other than maybe the Redenso Pro SE, which is also right up there. I've owned it twice. I've sold it both times. The reason was I didn't really need that level of performance because I didn't really spend that much time driving out in the mountains and out, you know, in the boonies. I used to do a lot, but not as much anymore, so I haven't really needed it. Additionally, the false alert filtering is not that great. Yes, you can do GPS lockouts, but they're manual and they require a cell phone. The blind spot filtering is also not the greatest, and the way that those alerts happen, you'll get like a full tilt blast of K-band when you get a blind spot false on the Redline. So it's like, oh my gosh, panic break. It sounds like you just got IO'd. You got instant owned effectively with K-band. So with the other detectors, they may still false to K-band, but they're going to be weak signals, and if you get closer they may gradually ramp up, but you can actually start to tell what's going on around you with the arrows and the gradual ramp up, so you can actually, again, better understand what's going on. It's not just the filtering, but the way the alerts are presented, which I find really useful. So with the presentation of the alerts, the way the alerts happen on the Redline, I didn't really like that too much. So now that they're coming out more and more, that's the reason that I haven't gone back to the Redline. Again, now that I have the Stinger, I really don't have a reason to get a Redline at this point. It doesn't add anything that the Stinger doesn't already provide, you know. Some other detectors that I could talk about. There's the Max 2, but if you've got the Max360, there's really no reason to run the Max 2. It's a popular detector, but this guy does everything that the Max 2 does, but better. The K-band false alerts have been solved. It's got black trim around it rather than silver trim, so it's a little bit better on the windshield. I prefer less reflective stuff on the windshield. This guy adds the arrows. I like the way some of the sounds and beeps work better here. Multiple alert presentation, like, I prefer this guy overall, so there's really no reason to choose this one, and that's why I don't do the Max 2. Almost seems like blasphemy because I was such a proponent against the Maxes when they originally came out. They've since gradually improved over time, and now that this guy kind of has all the core functionality, I'm surprised to say I find myself reaching for it more than I thought I would, so I'm kind of surprised. Again, it's not the cheapest detector, it's the most expensive windshield mount radar detector on the market, but it's also feature-packed, and for me, I like that. I'm a fan of all the bells and whistles, what can I say? There's also the Uniden LRD 950, a popular detector. Great filtering as well. It's got the blind spot filtering, very effective there. It's got the GPS lockouts, which are good. They're manual on this detector. They're not automatic like the other ones that I liked. But if I'm in a situation where there's going to be some like K-band instant on, this guy can actually filter out K-band false alerts without filtering out any sort of quick trigger shot. So that was really good, but the thing is now the Maxes can do that as well. They'll be able to filter out K-band falses without taking such an impact to reactivity. So the V1 with TMF2, like if you enable the filter, there's going to be a delay, so it may filter out some of the shortest alerts, where the Uniden won't, but the Max won't either. So this guy doesn't really add anything all that much more than what I'm already getting with the Maxes. So there's no real reason to run this guy. It's a great affordable detector for sure, but if you've got the higher end ones, I don't really find too much of a benefit to this guy. I think maybe the best thing would be like the blind spot filter. It's actually really good. But otherwise it doesn't actually really add all that much above and beyond what I've already got. Finally, there's going to be the Redenso Pro SE. As I mentioned, you've got the performance similar to the Redline, so you've got the high-end performance on the highways. The reason that I haven't chosen it, and I don't run it day to day, is it's just a little rough around the edges in terms of the way the GPS lockouts work. Having to do it, they don't always work properly. Things on the display, I can't actually get an accurate frequency display. Just some of the nuances and issues like that, it makes it a little bit annoying for me to kind of run and practice, because I'm constantly coming up against some of the bugs and it gets a little irritating. So the performance is there by all means, and it's got all the features, but for me it's a little bit annoying to run day to day, and I like really well engineered, like really effective products that just do their job very well and don't cause problems, you know? So that's why I've kind of come down to those three detectors. So again, it comes down to the V1, the Max360, and the Stinger VIP. So if I'm running a detector for myself because I actually want to just go for a drive, you know, whether I really need the performance, I just want a more relaxed experience, or whatever the case may be, if I had to like pick a detector that I actually wanted to run, it's going to be one of those three. So anyways, it's a question that I get all the time. I think it's a great question, and I try to be as, you know, objective as possible when it comes to test results, how the detectors compare, etc. But for my own personal needs, my personality, what I like and where I drive, these are the ones that I'll reach for if I'm not doing some sort of test or something, you know? So anyways, I hope that's been helpful. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, what your favorite detectors are and why. Like, again, this is my own personal take, and it's going to be different for everybody, so I'd love to hear kind of what's your take on things, and if you've tried out a couple detectors or you watch my videos or whatever, like, why did you choose what you did? And these are my reasons. I'm curious to hear what it was for you as well. So anyways, thanks for watching. Look forward to reading your comments, and you know, like this video if you found it helpful. Cool, always helpful. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.